Good morning. Welcome to another Feel Good Friday, and we're starting off with a new section to feel good. This is the 13 steps to make your photography business work. And today's session, we're talking about preparing for the future, and we'll succeed. I don't think this could be any more apt. In fact, in the UK, we've just had the announcements of the increases in the cost of living to do with gas and electric and so on with it. And there's many people waking up and kind of hearing the doom and the gloom. And of course, it's very easy for us as businesses to kind of look at it and go, oh my God, it's all going to fall apart now and so on. The reality is that people are going to have slightly less money to spend. And if we kind of ensure that they're going to have a good time with us and things really, and the images are fantastic, then there's still a very good chance they're going to be spending some money with us. But anyway, look, in turn, let's look at this session for preparing the future, and we will succeed. So basically, we've got 5 kind of topics. Be organized, stay in focus, bend like a reed, get creative, and more sacrifices, or make sacrifices, I should say. So number 1 for me would always be organized in everything that we're doing. As a kind of a guy, very young guy, when we opened our studio up, organization wasn't anything I thought about. Administration wasn't anything I thought about. Telephoning clients was nothing that I thought about. I didn't think about anything else. I just kind of followed my passion. I was a young guy with 2 young kids, married and a mortgage. We were paying 17.5% in interest rates at the time. I was on kind of minimum wage with a photographer. My wife was a nurse. So as far as, kind of throwing it out there, this seems like a good idea. Let's just go ahead and do it. I often reflect back and I say, look, we had nothing to lose and we had everything to gain. And for me as a business owner, for all of my career, I kind of have always taken that as kind of, that's what we're doing. It's kind of the risk factor that we accept, and there's going to be some really good days and there's going to be some not so good days with it. And from time to time, we'll have some disastrous days as well. But in the kind of the business positivity, in this the mindset, the first thing what we can do for ourselves is be organized. I'll always recommend that you kind of set sections of your day aside for you and sections of your day aside for your business. As a rule, I don't touch an email till 11 a.m. because I often found that emails can completely devastate my day, and they'll distract me and everything else away from what I've got to achieve. So in fact, from my 8 a.m. till 11 a.m. slots, they're preparing myself for the day, they're preparing my team for the day, they're making sure the business is ready for the day. It often kind of incurred that we were having to make some decisions in that AM as well. We always had a kind of a quick brief meeting with the team as soon as everybody was in work with a coffee before we actually had a kind of busy day ahead with us. On a Friday, we'd probably be having a few of the wedding photographers who used to work for us as freelancers coming in for their chat, picking up their rolls of film. I'd have all their lists and so on with it. So as far as being organized is concerned, I know there is so many things to do when you're working alone, but we can only do so much. So the more organized we are, the better we're going to be. I once listened to a great guy, he's no longer with us now, a guy from Bristol, and he said, I created the 8th day. I mean, what's that? And it was a great little talk. He only talked for about an hour. And he said, I just get up an hour before, or I start business an hour before the business starts. And I'm an early bird anyway. And I thought, that is absolutely genius for me. So just by kind of creating that extra hour at the beginning of each day allowed me to basically create this extra day of the week that it stopped me from kind of taking family time away. And so I used that first hour of my day still to this day as my organizational element. By doing that, it means I know what I've got to achieve in the day. I've kind of double checked from the day before that I kind of did finish off anything that I needed to actually do in yesterday's to-do list. But it's amazing what you can do. So even if you're a 6-minute marketer, in other words, you still haven't kind of organized yourself to schedule your marketing, your ads, and so on social media, it means that in the first part of the day, on your drive to work or as you're eating your breakfast or whatever it be, you're going, okay, I haven't done that yet. That's the first thing I'm going to do when I go in to work. Okay, you might say, well, my first session's at 9:30, so I do need to check my emails to see if anybody has cancelled or they've texted me or messaged on the telephone. So I can understand that you might need to actually address your emails quicker in administration element. But as far as the organization, I believe that it can be done right at the beginning of the day. I would soon encourage you, to move away from the 6-minute tasking and kind of take them to the 6 hours. So in other words, the day before, and then 6 days. So we can start to move those kind of crucial tasks further and further away from what we're trying to kind of achieve and things really. So, like this morning on about getting all organized, I come in, I basically boot up the computers, I check the presentation, I then actually go, okay, I've got time to do X, so I'll find myself those 5-minute tasks. I really do relish mini tasks because they can really make you feel great. If I looked at the whole week of what I've got to do, it can feel a little bit overawed at times. So my way that my head works is that it's better that I break it down into little bits, and you've got to find the way for you to make sure that you're at your most organized. And when you're having that kind of unorganized day, a bad day, then don't punish yourself. Just make sure the next day is a better day than it is and things. Number 2 is staying focused on task, staying focused on what we're trying to actually achieve, and don't get distracted by things. In the world of social media nowadays, I've got my phone just on a stand, just out of shot and things really. But there's 5 or 6 little kind of conversations going on between my kids and me and my wife, between our friends. We went out for dinner last night, so there's the thank yous and the great, and I can see them popping up, and that is so easy to kind of get distracted alone from the task at hand. I know what they are. I don't care what they are, because at this stage, my task is you. So things like a mobile phone, I tend to actually work with my phone turned to the desk. So in other words, it's not on the stand when I can't get distracted. I literally, when we go out for dinner, my wife's father passed away last year, so we've got to be in touch with her mum. And she's not a well girl in her own right and things really. So I need to make sure that my wife is available should the emergency call come in. So it doesn't mean that you've got to stuff your phone away and hide it away and so on, but at least turn it upside down. Things like if you're using a smartwatch, switch off notifications. If it's really that urgent, somebody is going to be getting in touch with you through an emergency way. And even if you think about how many times with a smartwatch you get a notification, a text, an email, somebody's messaged you on WhatsApp, whatever it would be, think of the time that you actually take your focus off the task at hand that you're doing and then glance into your watch. Is that distraction for even milliseconds? You are not focusing on that task, and that's what I'm trying to say to you is, no matter how big or how small the task is, focus in on that one thing at a time. I mentioned about emails at 11 o'clock, and the reason I'm doing it at 11 is because there's usually other more important things to achieve at the beginning of the day than just my emails as such. Plus, if I was out photographing at a restaurant, let's say, I'm pretty much in the middle of a shoot. So by about 11 o'clock, there's some kind of break time going on perhaps. And that is even when I'm on location, it's then I will actually, if I've got a 15-minute time slot, I will then look at the actual emails. I offer a mentoring element, as you know, and I offer a mentoring where I come to your studios and so on with it. And one of the photographers I've worked with for years, I arrived at them, and it was probably about my third or fourth visit with them. And I've arrived, I got my coffee, and we're chatting away, and we're using that first kind of hour as kind of, okay, what are we really trying to achieve today? Even though I've got my list of what's going on, I'm just kind of catching up with them and so on with it. And there was this time where the owner of the company, the guy who was paying me the money, who was pretty much all the business. So it wasn't as if he was a manager or whatever it would be. He was photographer, administrator, blah, 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 blah. And he just really wasn't focusing in on what we were doing. And I noticed this after about 10 or 15 minutes. I said, Peter, is there a problem today? And he said, oh, no, I'm just doing all my emails. And I went, but you're paying me all this money to be here. You don't really need to be doing those emails now. And some people will just find the distraction of basically needing to do something, and kind of in their mental ability, they're flicking through things instead of kind of focusing in. And when we began to explore that during the course of the day, it soon turned out that basically they were checking emails every 5 or 6 minutes to see what they needed to actually, if there was anything to follow up with or whatever it is. And that was the one thing by the end of that day, we completely changed. I went, look, we need to touch this 3 times a day, beginning of the day, at the lunchtime, and before we leave. That is enough. You know, in the good old days of Royal Mail, when mail arrived before you arrived at work, one of the first things administrators did would basically check the mail. Why? Because we hoped there was going to be checks in the post, and if that was the case, then obviously there would be a bank run, and that would be done, and so on with it. But there's segmentation to doing what we're doing, and a lot of it is all built around that word organization. And when you're doing the organization, stay focused on that task at hand. Next thing for me, and I think I'm really good at this, is bending like a reed. In fact, my sensei in martial arts, karate, many moons ago, used to kind of explain this to us, you know, that if we kind of took the big hit, it was going to hurt. And if we went stiff, we would absorb the power. Whereas if we allowed ourselves to slightly have a flexibility, it would allow us to kind of allow some of the pressure of the punch or the kick to move through us or past us. And in that same way, bending like a reed, it's like if you don't change, if you are rigid in everything that you are doing in your business, then it will break at some stage. And what we've got to do is make sure that there is some flexibility in things that we are doing. So what happens if? That's my kind of bend like a reed. And I like to play those what happens if games quite a lot within businesses. And as I said, you know, we've in the UK and pretty much around the world, you know, this cost of living exercise that we're going to be facing for the next, you know, 18 months, 24 months is going to affect businesses in the likes of photography, because we're a luxury at the end of the day. Will everybody stop going to their photographer? No, they won't. Will they spend a little bit less? Possibly, yes. So if we accept those, what happens if, we can kind of look at the business model today that we're running and go, how can that business model be flexible for the client of tomorrow? Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean prepare a price list for the 20% of the people who will never spend. That's the worst thing that we can ever do as a business, because that 20% will never spend. And if you lower the price list for the 20% who will never spend, it means that the people who really do want to spend or will spend will basically not be given a price list where they can spend exceptionally well. So things like bending like a reed, it doesn't mean that you kind of knee jerk into things, but you're prepared in a Boy Scout way, perhaps, you know, being prepared. What happens if you can play that game within your business this week? I think it'll be a good exercise for you. So what happens if our average sales starts to drop? How will that affect our business for tomorrow? Is there a way that we can increase our session count to allow for the slightly different spending rate? If I keep to the same avatar of client and they are no longer able to spend money with us like we need them to spend, what will the business need to do to survive and grow? So bend like a reed means that don't be too fixed in your ways. Allow yourself some flexibility and just try things out, and the worst comes worst, you can come back to where it was beforehand. I know at times that can be quite confusing, but again, it can be a real positive effect on the business at the same point. Getting creative. Now, you might go, oh, it's all about photography. Well, I'm not, in fact. I'm on about get creative with your business. If you've been doing a certain number of things for such a long time, and you're doing the same procedures, the same kind of routines, the same marketing, you've been dealing with the same business-to-business contacts forever and things really, then get creative. Step outside of your comfort zone, take some time, get organized, and basically find some time for you to actually look at different ways to bring clients through into your business with it. It might be a new exhibition, a different exhibition site, a new business for voucher delivery. It might be changing your avatar style on your marketing on social media with it, but get creative is key. Don't keep doing the same things. I do use the word inertia quite a lot in my training, because basically if you're expecting different results by doing the same thing, I think Einstein said it was the definition of being an idiot, and I pretty much agree with that as well. So get creative with everything that you're doing, and obviously in the world of photography, you should think about encouraging and stimulating any photographers who work for you, including yourself, to be creative at the end of every session that you do. Inspire yourself each day, and if you can inspire yourself each day, you're definitely going to make a difference to the client. And then number 5, make sacrifices. I know that sounds terrible when I'm supposed to have a feel-good Friday with it, but unfortunately, in the world of being an entrepreneur, a self-employed business, we know how tough it is at times, and we know how it basically can get into our head and we start to actually worry about things. As far as the positivities of being self-employed, I don't know how I would have earned my income at the level that I do doing any other job. You know, it depends on the smarts that you have, and I'm a good, intelligent businessman. Could I run a 500 billion pound company or run the government? No, I couldn't. But all of those people who do those jobs have to make drastic sacrifices during their careers, because you don't get paid the big money without the sacrifices. And that's the same thing within business. So when you're running your own business, we have to accept that we're going to have to put in more energy than perhaps our friends who work for the council or work for a local solicitor or whatever that would be, because they're used to their kind of weekly and monthly salaries coming through. They get it no matter what. We don't get that. So for us, there are certain sacrifices that we might need to make. I very rarely went out on a Friday night when I used to do a lot of weddings. Why? Because I needed to be on point. If I had a Sunday wedding as well, whether it was a Greek or a Jewish wedding, I wouldn't go out on a Saturday night. Why? Because I'd probably done a Friday wedding, I'd done a Saturday wedding, at least one, and I was having to actually do another one the next day. So the little sacrifices during the summer or the busy times for you in your business, those are the things that we have to actually go, okay, I can't do that because of this. But what you can do is take a day off in the week to kind of allow you to get some time back. You know, it's not all about working hard, working all the time. It's about kind of working smart in the time that you work within your business. So that's our kind of first step, preparing for the future and will succeed. I'm talking about preparing for the day ahead, the week ahead, the months ahead, the years ahead. And the more that we can focus in on the future and what we need to do, pretty much the business will be more successful than if you don't apply them. Thanks for joining me live. Next week, we're going to cover shift your negative feelings about your business into more positive actions. See you next week.